Here we go. 1, 2, 5.
People are nuts.
We're awesome.
We're super awesome.
All
What are you
right.
talking about? Welcome, everybody, to our Facebook Live. We are here with our special guest,
Hostage.
our special hostage. She just wandered into the
She just
office
appeared at the
today,
warehouse today.
and we're like, hey, you should come on our live.
And she didn't say anything, so we took her home.
That's how
Pretty
it
much
usually
how
ends
it
up.
was. We just took her home, and she just came along for the ride. So, this is the part in the program where Chris goes about...
Posting things.
Yes, I post the link to this all over the place.
So since we've been talking about this person without saying her name, we should go the whole live without saying it.
I think that
And then only put the spelling up and people can guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, Carla. Hi, Blaine. Oh, boy. We're at it again.
We are at it
Okay.
again.
This is Siobhan Huggins.
Correct.
And her name is spelled weirdly.
Excuse me.
Siobahn.
Ivor said it was spelled
correct.
correctly.
It is
And that's
spelled
the
correctly.
only thing that
for
matters
that
to
way,
me.
that
That's
word,
true.
for that name. It's awesome. People can't spell my name right either, and it's really dumb because it's not very hard.
Bring it up again, aren't you?
Well, and
F?
people always say that there's an A in the front.
Yeah.
Miriam.
Miriam.
Like, does it say Mary in there?
Yeah.
Because it's not there. But whatever. I get the, yeah. Mine's a little bit easier to accept than, what do you get? Siobhan?
Siobahn is the most common.
Ooh, that's kind of ugly.
Thanks.
Siobhan?
Yeah, thanks.
You didn't notice it?
What?
No, I noticed. I just don't like it being pointed out. It's
Oh,
really
I'm
hurtful.
sorry.
So the king's stinking son fired me, and thank you for bringing up
such
such
a
a
touchy
subject. While you're at it, why don't you give me a nice paper cut and pour lemon juice on it? We're
Yes,
closed. Anyway,
Well, the regular way that you're supposed to say it is very pretty.
it's
So that counts, right?
so.
Sure.
I'm still sharing. Hold on a second. Why don't you tell
Sharing.
everybody what's going on with stuff?
So this week we're doing Keto Salt Lake. So we're so excited. That's why Siobhan is here. She is speaking. She's going to be the best speaker.
The very last
And the
one.
last
The
speaker.
last, we saved the best for the last.
We put you at the last so that everybody would have to stay.
Yeah,
I don't think that's how that works.
I think
I
it
think
is.
that's totally how it works.
I think so. So it's awesome. We're so excited for
Yep.
her to be here with us and for
Yep.
her to speak. And she's so brilliant.
Yep.
So it's great. She's going to be the best.
Oh, and you can totally hear. I wanted to check the volume level because a lot of times I start this up and I don't have it set up right and it's all dumb and anyway, I'm still sharing it. Sorry.
Yes, sharing. So in the Keto Chow world, we have root beer on sale this week. I don't think we're doing a giveaway right now.
No, we just finished one
Just
Friday
finished
night.
one. So we'll take a little break from giveaways for a minute and work on the conference.
Yep.
Should be so fun. It'll be awesome. And hello, Deanna.
Yep. Almost done.
Almost done.
Almost done.
We don't have the paper today.
We do not have the paper today because we're just going to be talking about
Yeah.
Siobhan and
We're
all the
just
stuff
gonna
she's
talk
doing.
about Siobhan and all of her things.
I have things.
Yeah.
You have stuff and
She
you
has
have
a
things.
farm.
I don't have a farm. My mom has a farm.
I was about to say, I don't
lives
remember that.
on a farm.
I
with her
don't live
mom.
on a farm.
Oh,
the
she
farm
lives
is in Michigan.
in
I
a
live
house.
in Indiana.
that has a farm.
No.
There's a farm somewhere in the world.
She knows a farm.
I occasionally go to a farm which is owned
Okay.
by my
How can
parents.
you have a farm and not live on it?
Because there's not a house there yet. Mom has
Oh.
to build
Is
it.
it far away?
It's like 30 minutes away from our house.
Okay, that's not far.
No, it's not far.
I see states.
It's 30
and I'm
minutes
Like
from-
6 hours away.
See, your concept of distance and states is completely different from ours.
Oh yeah.
To get to another state, we have
You
to
have
drive
to drive a long time.
yeah, hundreds of miles.
Whereas you just drive to Walmart and you're in another state.
This is actually true. We do go to a Walmart in Michigan occasionally.
Do they have lower sales tax?
That particular Walmart seems to have more farm-related stuff, and also it's easier if we're on the way back.
Gotcha.
Oh, okay. You guys don't have a Tractor Supply there?
There's a farm store that we also go to.
Yeah.
Is it called the farm store?
I legitimately cannot remember what it's called because we usually just call it the farm store.
Gotcha.
The farm store. It's probably Tractor Supply.
It's not Tractor Supply.
It's probably Tractor Supply.
It's not.
Okay.
It's not.
Sure it's not.
It's called something else, but I don't remember what.
It's probably called the farm store. There's a store that's here that's called the store.
That's true.
I've never been there, but
I wonder
I
how
know
much.
it's there.
How much did that trademark cost?
I don't know.
The store? Well, it depends on if no one had trademarked it. The domain name was probably very expensive. I looked into, what was it? Instaham. Someone said something about, instead of Instagram, Instaham. The problem is it's a common misspelling. You're just missing the G and hitting the H because they're right next to each other on the keyboard. Somebody wants $40,000
Wow.
for Instaham.com.
What are they sitting on it?
Yeah, they're totally just sitting on it. I was like, okay, whatever.
People.
So if you really want to get Instaham.com, you could if you want. Holy crap!
Usually,
Twitter looks
Chris
completely
Bear.
different.
I know,
Twitter?
it's terrible.
Oh, that's why it looks weird. That's Twitter?
Yeah.
Twitter is like
It
the
looks
last
like a-
remaining good thing in my life, and they're taking it from me.
Yeah, it looks like Facebook.
Oh, God. Why would anyone want to do that?
I didn't even recognize it.
They're just doing it out of spite.
Well,
That's true,
anyway,
specifically to
people are-
spite me.
People are going to get bored.
By the way, Brenda Zorn,
Brenda!
What's she up to?
she says, really cool. See, you are a VIP in my life. This proves it.
See, you're a VIP in my life.
What?
I don't know.
Brenda said so.
Yes, she did. Okay, I'm done. Now I can engage with the conversation. Hi! So you're in town
Yeah,
for Keto Salt Lake.
I am.
And we've got you as the very last speaker so that everybody stays.
I'm sure that will not
I'm so excited.
fall apart at all.
I think you're a wonderful speaker.
Okay, so
I'm excited.
we contacted Siobhan. Now is it Siobhan or Siobhan? How do you like to pronounce your name?
I don't like to pronounce it, and I don't like to hear it.
Okay.
What would you like to be called?
Yeah.
Because we could make something up. As
Oh,
long as you
please.
like it.
Yeah, I like nicknames.
What do you call Dr. Barry?
Dr.
Berry.
Berry.
And what does he call you?
Usually something like little lady or
Little
something
one.
like that.
Hey there, little lady.
Little lady? Little lady? Little lady?
Well, I usually just call you Dave's minion. But
He would object to that. He's now my minion.
oh, that's true.
The tables have turned.
Yeah. Well, so when we contacted you to see if you wanted to come to Keto Salt Lake, and your response was, "Are you asking about me or Dave?" And I actually hadn't even asked Dave if he wanted to come yet.
What?
So, because Siobhan is I think it's a Spanish BV blend. Siobhan.
It's Irish.
Is it? Mm-hmm. Okay. Blaine, you're wrong.
S-I
It's
makes
Irish.
S-H, B-H makes V. And then it makes sense.
Siobhan.
Yep.
Okay.
Hi, Audrey.
Okay.
I saw your socks.
Anyway, so we contacted you and told you that we wanted you to come speak, and you're like, "What? Okay, that's weird."
That's my general reaction to anybody asking me to speak at places. Like, are you sure?
You sure?
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, for those that didn't see, I've got limousine on my laptop.
Geek. In case you didn't know what that meant.
And in case you do know what it is, well, the Trogdor comes in the night. Okay, so what are you talking about at Keto Salt Lake?
I will be talking about inflammation. And inflammation is a bit of a tricky topic because,
Inflammation is all bad, right?
yeah, it's horrible and it ruins things and it damages everything and it's just terrible and we need to stop it at any cost. That was the general perception I got when I first started studying it.
Yeah.
And it was, even in the keto community, they were talking about like all these anti-inflammatories that you need, how you need to take turmeric, all this stuff.
Hey,
And
Audrey, can you take that box outside?
They
Pick up
left
the
a
box.
guess about the.
Take it outside.
Hi, James.
The box of chickens.
Yes,
Hi,
the
Lori.
box of chickens. It's super chirpy.
Somebody
I
thought we
can't
had
hear. Anyway,
just
okay.
distracted.
So sorry. Choo choo. So we're talking about inflammation, right? And you say even in the keto community, everyone's always talking about you got to stop inflammation, right?
Right. And the interesting thing is, if you start studying it in immunology papers,
Yeah.
you actually get quite a different perspective where they're talking about inflammation as part of the healing process, about inflammation as our defense against invaders like bacteria and viruses and all this stuff. And even if you look at other things like the sports medicine community, they're starting to push back on this anti-inflammation thing because it doesn't work. It doesn't benefit us. And in some cases, there's a case to be made for it actually being a detriment for trying to inhibit it. And so, but then you also see like this category of inflammatory diseases where they're saying inflammation is driving this, this, and this, where they're talking about obesity, where they're talking about diabetes, where they're talking about heart disease and autoimmune disease. But I became really curious as to whether this could possibly be backwards. Not to give spoilers for the talk, but there was always this perception of it being this wildly out of control thing, which can happen if things get really, really hideously bad. That's called sepsis, and it can be fatal.
Okay.
But most of the time, that doesn't seem to be the case. Even in chronic inflammatory stuff, it more seems to be like there's something else that's going on underneath what is being talked about, and it's just far more complicated than just it's bad. And it could actually be this is something that's supposed to be protective, but something is messing with how it's supposed to be working, and then we end up with heart attacks and diabetes complications and all this other stuff. So it's something that's fascinating to me because it's supremely complicated and supremely well run, and then we kind of have this urge to simplify things.
Yeah.
Because complicated things are really scary, especially when they're related to very scary things.
Yeah.
And so hopefully with the presentation I want to be able to simplify it for people so it's not so scary, but simplify it in a way that's accurate so we can actually understand what's going on, so we can try and figure out the steps to take to fix this, because it is a problem. The diseases are definitely a problem, but I think how we're going about it now is maybe not ideal.
Okay, so you're not just talking about we've got chronic inflammation, and we've got the inflammation that just happens, very suddenly. Like, well, Miriam, she got a burn. There's inflammation going on there.
That's right here.
Acute inflammation.
Acute
is what
inflammation,
that's
yes. I knew the word, and I was like, it's not coming right now. I'm going to just talk around it, and hopefully someone throws it out there. Anyway, so you're saying that in some cases, the chronic inflammation may be beneficial as well.
It may be, I don't want to say trying, because it's kind of like assigning will to something that I don't think does.
Yeah.
But I think it may be originally set up to serve a beneficial purpose.
Okay.
And the question is, like, what happens if we do inhibit it? What if we give people, anti-inflammatories? What does that do?
It's just making the inflammation that has a purpose go down and not fixing the root cause.
There are cases where they've tried to do this with antioxidants, with omega-3 supplementation, with anti-inflammatories themselves, all this stuff, and it doesn't appear to have any benefit.
Oh, wow.
So then the question is, what is driving the inflammation? Because the perception that I always got was something was broken or something was unbalanced and we needed to fix it. But if that's the case, we're trying to do all this balancing and it's not really doing anything. But then in now the nutrition community, we're starting to see things that are having this real impact. And that doesn't appear to be balancing things and micromanaging things and trying to correct something that's broken. It's more like putting it back to a place where it should have been in the first place, whatever tactic you use to do that. And so there you go.
So it's you're treating the underlying root cause rather than what's manifesting itself.
Right.
Now,
And the difficulty with this is for some chronic inflammatory conditions like arthritis or psoriasis, they can be really painful because that's part of what inflammation does. Is it signals, this thing is hurt, don't touch it, don't mess with it, give it time to heal. But then if there's something chronically triggering that, or maybe something is broken, I don't think we know, then that can continue on forever. But the thing that I find interesting is these conditions that are assumed to be autoimmune or some sort of broken system, first of all, they don't really happen in indigenous populations. So what's up with that? Yeah. And number two is people going on ketogenic and carnivorous diets are seeing it resolve. So what's up with that? That's another question that I don't think we fully understand yet. And I think it all ties into this question of why are ketogenic diets called anti-inflammatory, and what does that actually mean? And it can mean multiple things. Yeah. So.
Okay. Now, it's funny when you're talking about all this, it reminds me a lot of talks that I've heard talking about cholesterol.
Yeah.
So, cholesterol is seen as this thing that's awful. It's something that we need to take statins to reduce at all cost. Who cares what it does? We want to treat the condition, the end result. We don't want to treat the underlying cause. We just want to bring it down at all costs. And it's almost like they think that our bodies are stupid.
I don't necessarily think it's that we don't want to treat the root cause. I think it's more a case of we don't know what it is. Oh. And so it's this case of we have to do something. Like, this is a huge, tremendous problem. Heart disease is a huge problem. Diabetes is a huge problem. So we have to do something. And here's something we can do something about. Maybe this will help. And some trials show there's some benefit. Okay, at the very least, we're doing something. We're not doing nothing.
Yeah. And it's just treating symptoms.
They would argue maybe not, but the data coming out on it is definitely interesting, and that's something that Dave will be talking about, is the risk side of things and what the data actually shows. But what I find so interesting is if you compare how lipidology is taught and how it's researched compared to even lipidology in regards to the immune system, it's completely different. And I think it's because there's such a high risk of, if you get things wrong on the pure lipidology side, you're putting lives at risk. And with the immunology side, it's more of a trying to understand how things work. There's not much risk here. We kind of already know how to deal with illness in general. So I'm wondering if that's part of what it is and why there's such a big reaction if you say, maybe this is more complicated than we think it is, because it's a serious topic and people are legitimately scared for good reason. Yeah. So it's not something that should be taken lightly. And it's a big reason why I don't tell people what to do when it comes to their cholesterol. I'll give them the research that we have, but beyond that, it's largely, this is something that people have to decide for themselves because we don't know. And it's okay to say we don't know. We just have to look at the research that we have and do what makes us feel most comfortable, because we're the people who have to live with the decisions that we make. No one else does. Our doctor doesn't.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Now, it's somebody Christine just said, my daughter is suffering horribly with rheumatoid arthritis. Inflammation have recently caused pressure and impingement on a nerve next to her knee, and now paralyzed to her foot. She is 32. Doctors say it might heal itself months or a year from now. I think keto would be a benefit to her health.
I mean, it's definitely something to try because, granted, I don't think we have like randomized control trials or anything, but this is something I talked about at CarnivoryCon. I said we don't have the information, for example, carnivorous diets on this type of thing, or even ketogenic diets in regards to arthritis. But we do have anecdotes, and at the very least, from what Verta and IDM have kind of shown us, is it's probably safe to experiment, especially with medical supervision. And so, yeah, if I was in that position, I would probably want to try keto or even carnivore if I was interested in that too.
Yeah. I mean, heaven forbid you eat a bunch of meat, because that'd be weird.
Yeah. For those who are not aware, I have been following a primarily carnivorous diet for, I want to say like a year and a half now. I've kind of lost count.
Yeah.
I started in October 2017, so however long that is.
Okay. Now, at Carnivory Con, that was a great talk. And so the key takeaway I got from what you were talking about was that we have this huge corpus of data of like blood tests, what normal, average levels for like HDL and LDL and all these other different biomarkers for standard American diet. Mm-hmm. But we have no idea what normal is for people on a ketogenic diet.
Right. Although we are starting to see some trends, and by understanding the mechanisms behind this stuff, we can kind of get a solid ground to work off of.
Yeah.
Like HDL, I mean, I can see a circumstance where it can be on the lower side and maybe not a problem. Mm-hmm. Like extremely low-fat diets, but everything else is good.
You see your legs.
Maybe I would be okay with that. But then on a high-fat diet, if HDL, suddenly goes down, significantly goes down, then that, it's kind of been seen in the community that's not a usual thing. So we're already starting to get hints of, what is normal, what isn't normal, but it's not in any official capacity.
Yeah.
That's the difficult part, but if we waited for that, how long would that take?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to me, and I was listening to, I was mowing the lawn last night, listening to podcasts. I got through 2 podcasts. Dr. Barry was talking about inflammation, oddly enough. And I'm trying to remember what his name is. He also presented in Carnivory Con. He's from Australia. Is it Paul Mason?
Yes.
Was he talking about leptins?
He was at Carnivory Con. He talked about leptins.
Yes. Okay, that guy.
I loved his talk.
Oh, he was fantastic.
He was really good.
But so I was listening to it, and it struck me that we have to be so careful about the recommendations for diet and everything else when they were so blasé and so they just threw these recommendations up against the wall and saw if they stuck back during the McGovern committee and all that other stuff with no real good evidence. And now the onus is on us to prove that ketogenic diets, low carb and all that is okay when there's no corresponding proof that the other way is okay.
But I mean, I think the case to take with that is we should be doing what we would have wanted to happen in the first place.
That is exactly right.
So even if it is frustrating, I would much rather fight the harder battle of doing this properly and making sure we're actually right that this is safe, because who knows, we could be wrong.
Yeah.
I'm looking for that constantly in regards to cholesterol and inflammation and all this stuff. But I would much rather do that than say, well, maybe they did it this way, so I can do it that way, and then end up in the same problem again.
Exactly.
10 or 20 years down the line. So it's difficult, but it's usually the case that it's difficult to do things right.
Yeah. Good science. Well, and I did take it to heart your we need more blood tests. Beverly and I.
He loves doing blood tests.
No, I do not. But
speaking of blood tests, doesn't his haircut look nice? Looks so nice.
I got my haircut this morning. Yeehaw. Here's a good... Okay, so Christine just said, my triglycerides went from 385 to 153. I'm assuming on a ketogenic diet. Oh, yeah. And total cholesterol went from 260 Yes, I'm reading that right. To 148, 6 months of keto, which some people see their cholesterol go up. Mm-hmm. Like Dave.
Yeah.
That's what started this whole thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Some people it goes down. And Blaine asked, does a carnivore diet change calorie recommendations due to the enormous macronutrient swing towards protein and fat?
I have noticed that for ketogenic and carnivorous diets in particular, it does seem that people can eat more and not gain, or even that they get hungry if they don't eat like 3,000 calories a day or whatever. So maybe I don't know in that case, but like my usual thing is I don't count calories because it's really obnoxious and I don't like it. Like I'll log
You just
food.
take a picture of everything.
Yeah, I'll log food, and then if I get blood work done, I'll put it into a thing retroactively.
Yeah.
But I don't track calories because it's just tedious. It's tedious, and I do a lot of tedious things already that are more important.
Well, and Ben Bickman, who's also coming to Keto Salt Lake, makes the case that on for instance, you have brown adipose tissue. Mm-hmm. Adipose? Adipose.
Adipose.
You have brown adipose tissue that's wasting energy as heat. It's uncoupled. All it's doing is, well, it's great that it's doing that, but it's not, unlike all other cells that are very tightly coupled and holding on to that energy. It's just wasting it as heat, which is another example of the whole calories in, calories out model. It's not that simple. And so, yeah, in a carnivore diet, you may be eating more calories. Great. Why? I don't know, but it's entirely possible that works for you.
And I think the other interesting thing is I think I have seen some research indicating that people who are obese have higher metabolisms. Yeah. And one thing that I've always wondered is, these people they have chronic inflammation and all this stuff that has to be coming from somewhere. So I wonder if on some level part of the calories that they're eating is just going towards fueling their immune system.
Oh wow.
Like yeah. I don't have any evidence to back that up or anything, but it's just something I've wondered because it's not like, it's fundamental. You can't magic energy out of thin air.
Yeah.
So magic energy, please.
Right? So it has to be coming from somewhere. And if that's the case, then that's just really weird. Like, we could be thinking of things backwards. Like, they're eating so much and that's why they're fat, but maybe they're fat because they're sick and they're eating a lot because they're trying to get better, and then they don't.
Their hunger is driven by the fact that their body's just trying to stay alive and fight off all that inflammation.
That's a good hypothesis.
Yeah. The only question is how to test it. I'm not actually sure on that.
Humans are so difficult.
Yeah.
What was that thing
It'd be
about?
Easier if they were mice.
They don't like to submit themselves to being in controlled experiments and then being sacrificed to check for body composition at the end of the experiment.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I actually do have a list and a spreadsheet of just like all the animal and human studies I want to do. It's growing to be pretty long, but hopefully someday.
Yeah. Now Blaine thinks that he says, I suspect the opposite. I suspect that a carnivore diet would allow you to eat fewer calories due to the enormous protein numbers.
Well, or even the satiation. Like, you get satiated so quickly.
Yeah.
And so then, that's someone who doesn't do carnivore, though.
And I guess it depends on what cuts of meat you're eating, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would depend. And the other thing is, people talk about the satiety of protein, but I think it depends, and there are more anecdotes. Josh Blackburn is one example, where he did a Paleolithic ketogenic diet, which is what they use at ICMNI to treat specific problems. And it's essentially a carnivorous diet where you're eating a 2-to-1 fat ratio.
Oh.
Fat to protein, so a lot of fat.
That's a lot of fat.
Yeah.
Well, and especially because it's 9 calories per gram.
Mm-hmm. And so the total food volume tends to go down in the people who are doing this. But his calories were way more than what he was eating when he was doing a protein-sparing modified fast, which was in his case essentially calorie restriction. Yeah. But when he did PKD, he started losing weight.
And on
So-
a PSMF, he wasn't?
Yeah, so I think he would temporarily lose weight and then he would gain it all back and he was slowly like creeping up. And then
Wow.
when he did PKD, it just dropped.
Huh.
And that's a
That's
9
definitely
to
an
2
interesting-
ratio of calories of
Yeah.
fat to protein. That's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, but it works and he's not the only one. Like, ICMNI uses this for people with cancer, people
Tell
with...
them what ICM
So,
is.
oh my god, I don't remember what it stands
see.
for.
Icicle, clarity,
It's
magic.
it's a clinic in Hungary.
Okay.
And one of the founders of the people who runs it is Sophia Clemens.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't remember what ICMNI stands for because I think it's a recent name change.
They
but
she got
before-
interviewed on 2 Keto Dudes, didn't she?
I think so, and she was also at Carnivory Con as well.
Oh wow.
But it
We
used
sat
to be
by Michael Eads.
Yeah, we totally.
We were
did.
totally sitting right next to
the
him.
whole time.
Like the whole time. And I look over, I'm like, what the heck?
I'm like, do you know who's sitting by us?
Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, but it used to be called Paleomedicina.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
okay.
So that should help you find it. But
Yeah.
they're using it in these people, and they have clinical examples of this working, of people losing weight. And that's actually going to be my next experiment. I
Well.
have their official guide. I'm going to be doing PKD, so it's going to be the 2-to-1 fat to protein and all the other recommendations they give, which I'll outline when I actually get started on it. But I'm going to see what it does because...
I want to do it with you.
All right.
So
Let's do it.
how do you get that much fat? Are you doing like 66% fat, 33% fat ground beef? I mean 33% protein ground beef?
I can
So
I can math on my head.
from what I can tell, a lot of people are adding fat, so they're eating bone marrow, for example,
Oh,
which
wow.
is very fatty.
Yeah, yeah.
Josh talked about eating Costco brisket, which is extremely fatty. Apparently,
Yes, please. I would love
Well,
to
you
eat
run that through a grinder and you'd
And-
really get a lot of fat.
Yeah,
Or just don't
And-
trim it.
Personally, I don't like cooked fat, and I had talked to Sophia at Carnivory Con on the way back, and I asked her if you could do raw meat on following a PKD protocol, and she said,
That's not paleo.
well, might be a little bit before,
Sorry.
but essentially she said she didn't think
I'm
there'd
funny.
really be any reason not to.
Yeah.
It's just that most people don't because ew, raw meat.
Yeah.
But personally, I don't like the taste of cooked fat, and I don't like the texture. It's all like, bleh.
Okay.
So I'd much rather eat raw fat, and I have done that a little bit before. I had been eating the fat from around the heart of a cow that Amber and I had gotten from a butcher because I was staying at her place for a while, which is really delicious, by the way.
If you can wrap your brain around.
Oh, I ate brain
You-
too.
I can't.
Raw brain?
I'm not
Yeah,
there
raw
yet.
brain.
Okay.
I had
Not
raw
there.
brain. They actually served raw brain at the Carnivory Con speaker dinner.
Did they really?
Yeah.
And duck head.
And duck head, and I ended up prying into the duck to get the brain out. But
Wow.
That
yeah, it's
doesn't
good.
sound gross.
It's
Well,
really not.
it
So
depends
raw
on it.
brain. So first of all, be careful sourcing your raw brain. Make sure you're getting it from someone who's going through all the steps. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But the
Because you can
butcher,
get all sorts of weird stuff if you
Yes.
Yeah.
And my mom actually has a rule of I'm not allowed to eat any of her sheep brains before she has 5 generations of no symptoms of prion disease.
Oh, wow.
Oh, okay.
And I had talked to the butcher at the speaker dinner, and he said that's pretty much what they were doing with their sourcing.
Wow.
So the raw brain is sort of like a custardy texture, and it doesn't have a lot of taste. It's more just like a creamy custardy thing. It's really good.
Do you add stuff to it?
I just ate it straight. Like, he was giving a demonstration of butchering a head, like taking off the cheeks and the jowls and everything, and then he took a big cleaver and he took a hammer to it and he split it open and said, "Who wants raw brain?"
Well,
And you're like,
And it's
I'll
me.
just eat it. I got
Yeah.
this.
Michaela Peterson was also there,
Yeah.
and there's a picture of her making a face as she like tried it, like super disgusted, and I'm in the background taking a picture of
You're
like,
like-
my 4th serving.
Yummy.
So I find that
good.
one funny. But yeah, so that's probably what I'll do with PKD. I'll probably be eating raw fat
Oh, wow.
because it's just
I don't think I could do it.
the texture is way better.
You know
for
what
me.
brains makes me think about?
What?
Zombies.
But maybe it'll make me smarter.
Maybe. I doubt that. You're really smart.
Maybe I'll get like super big brained.
Maybe.
Maybe I should do that because I could use some smartness.
By the way, Blaine says
I'll try it.
he's
I'm
far
willing
from
to
being
try
qualified to discuss this as possible. He has an art degree.
Okay,
Hey.
so I don't have any degrees, so he already trumps me.
What?
I
You
have
can- Blaine, you can draw a picture of a brain.
Yeah, there you go.
You got this.
You can draw a diagram.
Like, how many of us use our degree? I have a partial
I don't.
graphic design certificate, so I guess I do use that somewhat.
I have a high school degree and a couple of Microsoft certs.
Oh, hey, what'd you get?
I think it was just like some basic level ones.
You get
and
your
then-
MCP?
I don't remember. It was
What?
I did them and I didn't think about it anymore.
Oh man, what were you doing? Like 2003, NT4?
Oh my god, dude. So here's the thing. I used to work with a
James
Microsoft Gold
Cosman
partner.
uses his degree.
Yeah.
Good job, James. You got this.
I used to work with a Microsoft Gold partner, and there was a certain number of certificates we needed to get.
Oh, yeah.
So they distributed them. I did whatever was handed to me. I studied for it. I did it, and I was done.
And
Oh.
it's
And then after
Really?
I was done, I didn't think about it.
Okay.
I did not use my degree. I studied interior design. And I made the house the way I wanted anyway.
Probably breaks all the rules, but that's fine.
It's true.
There you go.
Also, it's not up with the styles.
By the way, just a side note for the people wanting to learn more about the Josh Blackburn dude.
Yeah.
He has an interview with Guy in Austin on YouTube. The N is just the letter N, and he goes.
Guy in
Yeah,
Austin?
Guy in Austin, and
Okay.
he goes through everything. And I have
Thank
heard
you.
he's working on a couple other things to kind of summarize what he had been doing.
Google
Okay.
it.
I'm not
So
gonna
you can
Google it
post
right now.
Oh, we can talk while you're Googling.
Yeah, Google.
We could talk about no college debt. Yay, Nancy!
Okay, so let's talk about. So you help out Dave Feldman with stuff.
We help
Right.
each other out.
You guys help each other out. I think it's funny that you're both.
He's the tall one.
You can, yeah, he's the tall one.
That's his
I
qualification.
think it's funny that you're both contributors to each other's Patreons. Is that still the case?
Yeah, that's still true.
You're just laundering money. You know that?
We are not laundering money. We are not breaking any laws whatsoever.
No.
Guy
Mr.
in
FBI.
Austin.
No, I'm just saying that.
Yes, that is right, Nancy.
That if you didn't contribute to each other's Patreons, the net gain would be higher because they do take a percentage.
But then I wouldn't get access to all his content right away. I'd have to wait for him to link it to me, and that would never
Oh.
happen.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
So it makes sense in that way.
Incidentally, when am I going to get my Patreon reward?
Hi, Emily. You get
What?
it? It's emailed to you.
I totally contribute to your Patreon.
She emails it.
My rewards are all there.
I want like better stuff.
Okay, give me suggestions and I'll update it.
Oh, okay. I mean, I have to
She's
actually
gonna
work.
send you a flower.
A single flower in the mail every
This is
month.
not brains.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so let's talk about some fun stuff. At the Lipidology conference.
Ooh, yeah.
Okay, there was a tandem experiment that was going on.
Yes.
Dave found a fantastic new method for lowering cholesterol that was more effective than anything else he's ever tried, right?
Yeah, I think that's accurate.
And I remember him saying, if I could put this into a pill, I would be a millionaire. Right?
Yeah, probably.
And so he ate, what was it, white bread and then lean turkey every meal.
Yep. Yeah.
Did he even put any condiments on there?
No condiments.
No mustard, no nothing.
The brand of that turkey is burned into my brain, and I get like flashbacks whenever I see it in the store because that
OCD.
experiment
Yeah.
was miserable. Like for him, I'm sure, but
Yeah.
more importantly for me because I had to put up with him.
Because you had to hear about it. Yeah, I know what that's like.
Yeah, but I mean, it brings up an important thing which is how much diet impacts mood. Because if you have ever met Dave anywhere, he's like
He's the
super
happiest
cheerful.
guy.
He is like
He's
Tigger
super
in
happy.
human form.
He could
Come here,
probably,
give me a hug. Give me a hug.
He
Come
would
on.
probably jump around
probably
if
would.
he could.
He probably would, and he half does most of the time. But during that experiment, he was cranky. And,
Oh, yeah.
And towards the end, I straight up said if he intended to continue it any longer, I was
Don't
taking
talk to
days
me.
off of work because I
Yeah.
couldn't handle it because it was so stressful.
Oh,
like,
wow.
that's how bad it was. Like, he wasn't a jerk to me, but it was just the overall irritability and, like, this is so not normal.
And this is while he's at the conference.
Yeah, and the interesting thing from my perspective was that's how I used to be all the time, so I understood
Oh, wow.
like what he was going through. Because before I went keto, I had this depression and I was super moody and like all this stuff, and it was horrible. And so I felt for him, but at the same time, it was like never do this again. Never do this again, because this is just bad.
Think about what it's like to be his wife.
Oh my god.
She's like awesome and stuff.
Yeah.
She's a saint.
So awesome.
I'm pretty sure she's a saint. Like, at least my boyfriend doesn't have to put up with me because he's in a different country.
Yeah.
But Mrs. Cholesterol has to put up with him like every day.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine.
Well, and she's his manager and stuff now, huh?
Yeah.
Tells him what to do, where to go.
I mean, I'm sure he appreciates it, but
Yeah.
goodness, I'm glad it's not me.
Now, on the other hand, you were not eating white bread and turkey.
Never in a million years would I ever. And I am legitimately serious. I would never do that kind of experiment because I would be concerned for my mental health.
Yeah.
Because I've had experiences where I accidentally ate something that had, flour or something in it, and it was right back to where I started.
Oh, wow.
And in that case, it didn't take months to resolve. It was maybe like a day or two. But at the same time, it's just like, that's not safe for me at all. But so instead, what I did was I did the opposite. So instead of high carb, I was doing extremely high fat.
Yeah.
With
With a little bit of protein.
a little bit of protein. And that was in the form of Keto Chow shakes.
Yeah.
And it was easy to do. It was easy. I just pre-prepped like 5 or 6 of the things. By the
When you were
end of
doing
it.
super high calorie, too.
Yes. So normally I think I eat like 1,500 calories or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, that was my baseline, was 1,500. And then I switched over to the high calorie phase, and for the first couple days it was only like 4,000. But then it went up to 6,000 by the last couple days. And in both of our cases, it was to lower cholesterol. He was switching the energy he was running off of. So he was switching over
Was
to
he doing
glucose.
6,000 calories of turkey and
He
white bread?
was, I don't know the exact
That's a
amount. I know he was eating like entire like loaves of the stuff over the course of a day. It was
God.
horrible.
Oh.
By the end of it, he was like, I don't know
Guess
the
that'll
exact
cure
calorie
your
amount.
craving for white bread.
Yeah, no kidding. I don't know the exact calorie amount, but it was hypercaloric on his case and also for mine. So mine was 6,000 calories up at the end.
Yeah.
So probably like, what is that? Triple? Quadruple? I can do that.
It'd
Quadruple?
be,
Yeah, like quadruple.
yeah.
What I
Well, not
normally
exactly quadruple, but triple.
Close
or
enough.
something.
15 plus 50
It'd be a
is
lot.
30 plus 15
More than
plus 15.
more than X.
30, so 30
that?
plus 30 is 60. 3
Yeah,
times.
and it worked. He actually got lower than I did, which is whatever. But I dropped my LDL, I think it was by 150 points in like 5 days.
Wow, that's crazy.
And according to the theory that Dave, well, and I'm sure you put forth as well, my understanding of the theory is instead of trafficking triglycerides using VLDLs, so you're filling up cruise ships full of fat and sending them off, instead you were trafficking all that fat as chylomicrons.
Right. So the chylomicrons are coming from the gut.
Yeah.
So they're carrying energy you just ate. And then that's counterbalanced in a way by the VLDL, which is trafficking fat primarily from storage.
Yeah.
So if you're eating a whole ton, from all this new food, if you're ordering pizzas all the time, you don't have to raid your cabinets as much.
Yes.
Is essentially the way I think of it.
And the freezer is just
And
full.
so LDL is this kind of downstream effect of VLDL where some of the VLDL is remodeled to LDL. So if you have more VLDL trafficking, you have more resulting high LDL, is the current hypothesis. And so if you are just pumping yourself full of dietary fat, then your LDL drops like a rock. And that's called the Feldman protocol. Although, technically it should be called the cholesterol drop protocol. Because I have a specific annoyance for the names of things that don't reflect what they actually are.
Okay.
So I'll be studying like microbiology or something, and I'll be looking at like, gram staining. Gram staining is a way to identify different types of bacteria, gram positive versus gram negative. Well, where's the gram coming from? Is it like some gram particle? No, it's some dude named Graham came up with the staining technique. So it's not conducive for recognition and understanding and like committing it to memory.
Yeah, but Dave wants to be famous.
No,
Actually,
he
I don't think he ever
I
called
don't
it
think
that.
he wants that.
So I have something very important to say.
Yes.
We were at the dinosaur museum the other day, and there was a new fossil that's named after Dr. Johnson. That
That's
just
true.
reminded me of that.
This random guy. And I said, oh, so he named it after himself? And the lady's like, no, he was the guy who was cleaning off all the...
Who discovered it?
who was cleaning the rock off the bones here at the U of U, at the University of Utah. And so his colleagues named it after him.
Plesiosaur Johnson or something like that.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty funny.
It's funny,
But
but it's not a good name.
But it does
not a
make
good
you
name.
think that, that's kind of hard to
I can
figure out where it
understand the
is.
circumstances, but for the sake of making it easier for people down the road, of
Yeah.
like, oh, that's
I
what that
understand.
is.
I see your point.
Now-
It's a good point.
This is actually interesting. So we were at FitCon just a couple of weeks ago, and there was a booth right across from us that was selling exogenous ketone supplements. And there was a guy at the booth who came over to talk to us because he's doing keto by taking supplements, but he needed to go in to get a blood test for a life insurance policy. And I said, "Oh, do I have a thing for you?"
Let me tell you.
So I told him about the cholesterol drop protocol. So they called it the Feldman protocol. And how he could, there's all these cases, documented cases of people using it to get better life insurance quotes.
Yeah, I think there's like 4 or 5 on the record or something. I don't have an updated count for using it for life insurance purposes. And I will say, just for the record, that I don't encourage people to do that, but the information and the guides are out there, so
Yeah.
people will do what they will do.
If we're going to base life insurance off of something as arbitrary as cholesterol numbers that can change over
In
the
3
course
days.
of 3 to 5 days.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure before too long they'll catch on to this and update it. Be like, we're not doing this anymore.
Let's see. Now, Emily is not sure who the gal on the end is.
Oh, she must have came in
Yes,
late.
she did. So this is Siobhan.
Hello.
Siobhan is our friend. We first met Siobhan at Keto Fest 2017.
Back in the ye old days.
Yeah.
Siobhan was a bouncer at the door of what would
I didn't
become
even think I was even
RD86.
keto then.
No, you weren't.
I wasn't.
You
I was moved
I think
by
you
Keto Fest.
you catalyzed your resolve to do keto at that because you were doing Whole30
Yes.
at the time. But yeah, Siobhan was outside the one of the venues.
Telling
She
us
was
not to go in.
she was making sure that people were handing in their tickets, and she was a bouncer at the door. And then I later saw her at the Guard Theater, and
He kept pointing you out to me.
Why?
So I would know it was you.
Why?
Because he thought you were
Never.
cool.
Because I was a bouncer?
no, I wasn't pointing you out.
There, look at the tiny bouncer.
Granted, I have been told many times that I'm very intimidating.
Oh, okay.
Don't doubt me, this is true.
It's
I
probably
swear.
the glasses.
I think it's because I make really scary faces if I
Oh.
want to. I just don't usually want to anymore.
Okay, because you're nice.
But so Dave Feldman started this journey
She said
about.
hi, Mom, and she spelled her name right.
There you go.
Hi, Albert.
He started this journey
Hi,
about because his cholesterol went really high. And how did you kind of get into all of this?
It was actually at Keto Fest 2017.
Okay.
So that was when I got into the lipidology stuff. But as far as keto itself, you may not be able to tell, but my highest weight was 240 pounds.
Wow.
Which is 100 pounds higher than I am now. And I was about 220 pounds when I went into my mom's office and was like, I'm going to try calorie restriction. I'm going to do it for real this time.
Is your mom a doctor?
No.
Is she a farmer?
Yes, she's a farmer. She's a knitter. She has this office where she has all her yarn and stuff.
Like home office.
Yeah, home office.
Sorry.
And I was talking about calorie restriction, and I had already done this like
How many times?
a dozen times or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
And
I also
every single
a dozen
time
times.
I would go lower and lower and lower to a point where I was eating 800 calories a day, and it was
that's
miserable.
not healthy.
And I was like shaking by the end of the day.
Yeah.
It was like, but this has to do something, and it never did. And so I talked to her, and she's like, well, instead of, the calorie thing, why don't you look into this? It's a thing called keto. I've been looking into this recently, and we should do it together.
It's so great to have a buddy.
Yeah, and so I initially kind of brushed her off because she handed me an article from someone that was kind of repeating like a media doctor that I didn't particularly trust.
Oh.
But I took it and I walked away, and it's like, okay, Mom's not stupid. She's one of the smartest people I know. So this has to be coming from somewhere. And so I did my own research, and I came back to her later and I said, this is fantastic. It seems like there's actual science behind this. Like, let's actually do this. And we did. And so now we've both lost 80 pounds
Wow.
each.
Wow.
And we're both doing really great. And my mood is better. And I think she started studying it because she heard that it can be helpful for traumatic brain injury.
Oh.
And she had a concussion in 2012, and this was 2016, and she still wasn't
Oh, really?
quite top shape.
Wow.
And so we ended up doing that, and like not only did I lose 80 pounds, but it's like the eczema between my fingers was gone.
Yeah.
The rough skin on my feet was gone. My hair used to be like super frizzy and like dull, and now it's not so much. I used to have acne, now that's gone. I used to have really intense keratosis pilaris, which is a type of eczema.
Yeah.
It creates like little red bumps all on your arms. And I have it a little bit still, but it's nothing like what it used to be. And the depression was gone within a couple months. And I remember it distinctly because I was in the parking lot of the farm store, and I was kind of sifting through my thoughts, like, what am I feeling? This was a couple months into keto, and it's like, what is this? I'm feeling something and it's weird. And it was that I was content with my life even though nothing had changed, except I had been eating differently.
Wow.
And so it was just like this mind-blowing thing of I'm not angry. I'm not like... One thing that used to happen is my dad would come home every single day and he would say, how was your day? And I would say, fine. Like
Really
hits.
convincing.
Right. But the thing that I never explained to him, because it's like, how do you explain this to someone? Is like, you're asking me how my day was, and every single time you do that, it reminds me of how depressed I am.
Wow.
And so that's why I was like, don't even talk to me, because it hurt that bad, because it was just this reminder of how bad things were. And then, it came to a point where I was talking to Mom all the time. I was talking to Dad all the time. I was socializing at Keto Fest and going to social events, and I was talking to Dave at Keto Fest, and every single time there was an open seat, I'd be sitting next to him and asking him questions.
Yeah.
And I used to work in the IT world, and he was talking about the lipidology side of things as this like engineering thing.
Yeah.
And he was talking about it as a distributed object network, and I was like, that stuff is cool. Like, I want to know this stuff.
Yeah.
And so on the bus back from Keto Fest, I was like texting him because he had done the Keto Fest experiment and he had put his cell phone number on the thing. So I put it in my contacts and started texting him.
We could have done that. We should have done it.
We had to leave early.
Oh, that's right. We didn't get.
We had to
do the blood
stupidly
draw.
drive back to
And-
JFK on Sunday evening.
So on the bus back, I was texting him and like,
awesome.
what do you recommend for learning about lipidology? And he was like, my simple series. And I was like, I've already read it. You got to give me something else. And he told me about Peter Attia's series on the straight dope on cholesterol.
Yeah.
And I read like the first 3 parts and I was like, this doesn't make sense. This is like way over my head. But in the first part, Attia says, if you want to be a citizen lipidologist, read these 2 textbooks. And they were Therapeutic Lipidology and Clinical Lipidology. And they were fantastic and wonderful and like beautifully written as much as a textbook can be. And yes, they did have things that I disagree with, but I don't care. I disagree with things all the time.
You disagree with me?
I disagree with
Like
people.
every sentence.
Yeah. I disagree with people I like. I disagree with people I love. And I love clinical lipidology. And I have a hard copy of it now. And I brought it with me to Breckenridge. And I had people sign it like a yearbook. Like, that's how special it was to me.
you and Jim this year.
Have a nice summer.
Yeah, I had like Brenda Zorn and Louise Reynolds and
Ivor Cummings.
you and Ivor signed it. And let's see who else. Ben Bickman, I think, signed it.
The guy who sat by, Michael Eads.
Michael Leeds.
I think he signed it as
I
well.
totally recognized him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you gotta go get a picture.
Yeah, I actually talked to him. It was so weird because at Breckenridge, I went up and talked to Eads, like raving about the presentation he had given, and like in my head I was like, I want to be you when I grow up. like he was going through all these like mitochondrial pathways. And
It was
just,
a cool presentation.
beautifully
Yeah.
written
Yeah.
in such a way that it was like amazing. And someone standing next to me turned to Eads and said, "You know who that is, right?"
It was me.
Was that you?
It was me.
That was you?
Yes.
and Eads goes, "Who?" And you said that's a upcoming rock star or something. That's Dave's right hand.
That's what I said. That was me.
And Eads goes, "Oh, I know who you are." And I was like, "What?"
And then I made them take a picture together because that's what I do. I facilitate things.
And immediately after that picture, I went and ran up to Dave and was like, "I got a picture with Michael Eads."
Awesome. It was funny because he was like walking by.
Oh yeah,
I'm
that's
like,
right.
Oh,
You're like,
yeah,
stop him.
yeah.
We're missing it.
Yeah,
rock star.
and that's actually how I got my Instagram name and the name I use on knitting social networking site, which is Right Hand Siobhan,
Yeah.
because I'm Dave's right hand.
Yeah.
It came
That's
from you.
It was from me.
That is you.
That's right.
Good job,
So
Miriam.
it was just like, it's been almost a year of working with Dave full time, and I still cannot wrap my brain around it that this is my job and this is my life now.
Yeah.
Especially with how passionate. I mean, it's just something that's so important to you, and you just are changing the
Yeah.
world. I
And,
mean, it's
like,
just.
Every single time I come to a conference, I meet more amazing people, and I get to meet up with amazing people I've already met, and meeting up with people online and talking to all these people and like helping people. And I don't give medical advice, but like I can share the research that I've read, and people are actually interested. That has never happened to me ever once in my life before.
Yeah.
Usually it's just like I start talking and people like, I don't know what you're talking about. And that does still sometimes happen, but it's like, but I want to know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Wow. I think we could probably go on for a long time, but
Probably.
What time is it? Is it time to be done?
it's probably time to be done. We've
Oh,
been going on for
We
an
didn't
hour.
show Emily my nails. Emily, my nails.
Oh, do you want me to zoom in on it? Hold on.
I do the dorky parts of the video.
It's true. There we
This
go.
is the only keto conference that I have not had keto nails at. I'm very sorry. You can pretend that they're like reverse eggs or something.
Reverse
But you do
eggs.
have a
My
cool
face.
ring. Hey, why don't you have an Aura ring yet? You can make Dave get you one.
He doesn't buy me jack.
He doesn't even give you his medical stuff. You have to be on his Patreon.
I know.
Yeah, so it's because I have a queue of things that I want.
Oh yeah.
So the first one was the cardio check.
You
which
just
I-
got the cardio check, right?
Yes.
And she didn't even bring any lancets. or
I
whatever you
have
said.
lancets. It comes with a capillary tube.
Oh, sorry, capillary
that
tube.
you suck up the blood because it requires.
Okay, hold on a
ton.
second. A cardio check looks like a really, really big glucose monitor. And it kind of works the same, but it's so that you can check your LDL, HDL, triglycerides, total cholesterol, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does it do anything else? Just those?
It can also do glucose.
Oh, okay. But so for a doctor's office, it's really nice because you can just check people's lipids right then and there.
Yeah. More
For-
specifically, mine.
Yes. For crazy people like Dave and Siobhan here, it's so that you can do lipid tests ad
Not have to go into
nauseum,
a
ad
lab.
infinitum.
Yes. And it actually ends up being cheaper than actually going into the lab
Oh, yeah.
because for the case of the strip plus whatever, it's so-and-so amount. But then even if the test is, cheaper or the same going to the lab, there's still the venipuncture fee. So
Yeah.
it ends up being more. So it's cheaper
Your
to do it
vein
this
is
way.
really sticking out, by the way.
I know. My phlebotomists love me. I'm not even kidding. When I was at NLA, which is the lipid conference,
Yeah.
Dave and I got lab work together.
Yeah.
And the phlebotomist was talking to me from across the room, and she was getting the stuff that she needed, and she was like, "What arm do you usually use?" She turns around and looks at me and is like, "Never mind, I can see it."
I can see it from 5 feet away.
Yeah, my veins are so good to me, and they need to be. But one thing I plan to do after PKD is a high carb, low fat experiment, but it's going to be whole food only in the hopes that it mitigates any issues it may cause. So it'll be sweet potato and lean meat.
Okay.
And
Is that about
that's-
using rice at all?
That turkey that you like, that brand?
No, it's gonna be. I can't decide what sort of chicken. Maybe just like some of Mom's chickens or something. But it'll be
Not the dark meat.
lean
It's the
meat.
best kind.
no.
Lean meat.
It'll be like breast meat
Okay.
and sweet potatoes.
I could do sweet
And-
potatoes.
Yeah, I don't like them, but I was
Oh.
talking to Amber and it's like, what's the least toxic plant I can eat?
Sweet
And she's
potatoes.
like, well, you could go for like lettuce, which is mostly just like water.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, but then I'd have to eat like 5 pounds of the stuff.
yeah, that'd be a lot.
So
Like, I'll eat my head of lettuce now.
we agreed on sweet potato was probably not horrible.
Yeah.
It does have oxalates.
Oh, does it have?
It does.
Does rice have oxalates?
I don't actually know, but it does have arsenic.
Ooh.
What's wrong with that? It's natural.
What have we been missing out
All
on
natural.
since we went keto?
Yeah. Actually, there's a good not conference. There's a good presentation on plant defenses
Yeah.
by George Diggs, I think it was, from Carnivory Con. That is now up on
Oh,
YouTube.
yes,
Is it?
that's right.
So we can post that? Can you
Yeah.
post that?
It's good stuff.
It was
It's
really
horrifying. It's horrifying.
Cool. How come I don't remember that one?
But that is
I
one of the
probably just don't know his
cases.
name.
Yeah, that is one of the cases where I'll be using the cardio check because I can monitor how my cholesterol will be dropping
Gotcha.
over the course of the high carb, like Dave did with his, and then when it reaches peak, I can get a lab draw.
Oh.
Because one thing I want to look at is lipoprotein little a, because so far it seems to be following that same inversion pattern where if you up the fat, it comes down. And I have a couple more experiments I want to do with that, and one of those is high carb to see if it follows. Because if it's following LDL, then that's just... It's suggestive of another context, which is interesting. And also it's supposed to be mostly genetic, and it's not. I mean, there is a baseline, but it can... I've manipulated it plenty.
Gotcha.
So I'm trying to find the thing, and so I get the we went to the Carnivory
It
Con.
was so cool.
If you go to youtube.com and go to L. Amber O'Hearn and go to playlists and go to Carnivory Con 19 or something. Then it's there. I have this memorized because it's good.
Well, she sent out a link to it. And
Got this.
there's L. Amber O'Hearn. Okay. Found it.
So,
Playlist,
I
got
like to
it.
hear you say lipoprotein little a.
Why?
Because I think it's really cute. Can you say it again?
Lipoprotein little a.
Oh, did you hear that?
It,
Okay, there we go.
I shouldn't say it's cute because that's kind of biased, but I think it is. I mean, the research behind it is cool.
Yeah.
It does cool stuff.
Yeah.
It's so cute. Little
I'm not
a. I
promoting
can't
it.
say little that cute.
Little.
All right.
See how cute?
Little.
So, you're going to be presenting on Saturday.
I will.
We are going to be live streaming yours and everybody else's.
Mine specifically. Everybody
yes.
else is out a lot.
Everyone else has just become along for the ride, but we're specifically going to be live streaming Siobhan's. We're actually going to be using this camera
Yeah.
in order to do the live stream.
We'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Look at sunburn.
So for all of you who,
Sunburn.
oh, for all of you who aren't
She was
in
knitting
Salt
in the
Lake,
I
car.
is that what it was?
Yes.
I just
I've
lost
been
track
sitting
of
here for 5
time.
hours. Whoops.
Yeah. It was actually 4 hours.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
That's
With
why
the
I
window
burned.
up or down?
So I had the
Half
door
out
open.
of the car, half in
I
the
had
car.
the door open and I had my leg propped up, and my arm was out of the door, but my other half of me was not. So one half
Oh.
got burned and the other did not.
So you're trying to do a A/B testing.
That
Nice control there. Anyway, so for those of you who aren't in Utah and won't be able to come to the conference because it is sold out, you'll be able to catch the live stream. It's something that we at Keto Chow are sponsoring just because it's nice to do. But so watch that on Saturday and on Friday. What?
does it make you feel all warm and fuzzy inside?
What to do that?
To
Yeah.
do that.
Well, we're running the conference as a
To be
public
nice.
service.
Yeah. I'm excited.
We
I think it'll be way
are
fun.
going to the amount of money that we got from ticket sales versus what we're all the speakers. I'll just have to say, Siobhan just flat out said yes. Didn't ask for any payment for her hotel or anything like that. We just said we're going to pay for your hotel and your the thing that you fly in flight.
Travel expenses.
Travel expenses. And all of the speakers were just like, yeah, we'll just do it. That's great. And then we're like, hey, we'll help out.
It's just a sacrifice of time and research.
Oh, yeah.
A
and
lot of effort.
Yeah.
Tears.
and all of these wonderful things just to help people
Yeah, and just to be
in our
nice.
Salt Lake.
And they're like, hey, can you make it not be quite so bad? Anyway, so the amount of money that we got from ticket sales, it covers about half of the conference.
That's not surprising because your ticket sales, I looked at the price and was like, are you kidding?
Yeah, well,
They're a little low.
it was more of a
We
get
want
it out
everyone
there.
to come.
So
Introductory cost.
yeah, so the conference itself
We want
is
everybody to come and everybody to hear and everyone to know the
stuff.
keto is awesome.
That's right.
That's what we
Well,
want.
so we're putting on the conference, Miriam and I, not Keto Chow.
our kids are helping.
I think
too.
I might have accidentally said Keto Chow is putting on the conference like a billion times.
It's okay.
That's okay.
The reason why it's us putting it on is if somebody says something and somebody sues the conference,
They can't.
they
take
won't
our
be suing
business
Keto
away.
Chow.
Makes sense.
They'll be suing the separate LLC that we set up, which is
Keto Salt Lake.
Keto Salt Lake Conference LLC.
LLC.
Anyway,
That's the smart way to do it.
yeah, we talked to a lawyer.
Yeah.
But
Lawyer.
there's a good chance that Keto Chow is going to be making a substantial contribution to
It'll be fine. It's
to
nothing.
cover the cost of the conference. But
It's
yes,
not
it
a
is
stress.
fine.
It's totally cheap. It's not that expensive.
Okay. Anyhow,
It's just
but we're just happy to have you here. Thanks so much for coming. Thanks so much for joining us after we strong
thanks for
armed you
being
into
our
it.
hostage.
And yeah, and thanks everybody for joining us.
You didn't ask how they
Oh.
can contact me.
How can they contact you?
Well, it's Twitter. I know that. Why would
Except
I
that
ask you?
She's mad at Twitter now, so she may not ever
They
go
changed
on
the
there
face,
again.
the layout.
Yeah.
So
they
you're
choose
on the Twitters.
I am on Twitter at Siobhan_Huggins. Have
Okay.
fun spelling that. I didn't really think far ahead when I did this.
Okay, it's probably a lot easier to find you on cholesterolcode.com, right?
Yes, that is true.
Okay. That's where I usually find it.
Yeah.
Actually, if I type at SIO, it auto-completes it.
I also get that too.
You can also find me on Facebook, although I haven't actually been on Facebook recently, except to check the Cholesterol Code Facebook group and Lean Mass Hyperresponders Facebook group.
Yes.
Sharon was at Keto Fest with us.
Hi, Sharon.
Yeah. Deb was on, too.
Yeah.
Deb wants to hear your talk. Did you hear?
Yeah.
I mean,
Cool.
did you see?
I
Yeah.
like Deb.
I did too.
Okay. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. And James says Jen is watching your
the
commercial and it's
awesome.
Oh, for those that don't know, next
Have you seen it
Monday,
yet? Did we show you?
we
I
showed
saw
her
a
an
previous
earlier
version.
version of it. Next Monday
Oh,
at
yes.
6 o'clock p.m. Mountain, we will be doing the premiere, the public release of our commercial. So it'll be after the conference, and we're finally able to relax. So
Great.
yeah. Anyway,
It's gonna be awesome.
yeah. So thanks everybody for joining us.
So
Now,
Siobhan
Oh,
is
what?
on Instagram and
I
Twitter
don't use Instagram
and
anymore.
Facebook, but she, you can find some pictures over there.
Yeah, you can find pictures of my knitting mostly.
Mostly Facebook. I mean, mostly Twitter.
Mostly Twitter. Mostly Cholesterol
Mostly the
Code.
cholesterol code.
Yeah.
But she's really good at writing back. If you do write to her, she'll say, "Hi, how are you
okay.
doing?"
Yeah.
I'll answer your smart questions.
All right, we gotta go.
Goodbye.
Bye. Oh, I have to hit yes. Hold on a second.
Goodbye.
Yes.
Done.
Ta-da.